We've had quite a big announcement from Unity and the reaction has been quite intense. It got so bad they had to close offices because of credible death threats. In this video I'll discuss Unity's new pricing structure, which has been met with ongoing upset, and I think this could be revealing about what the company's intentions are. I'll give you my thoughts on the company and why I think this has happened, what this means for the future and what you can do. So let's start from the beginning. Unity is now going to charge up to 20 cents per install of games a user makes and distributes. So to clarify what this means, this is only if your game makes more than $200,000 and has over 200,000 installs for that specific game. So for people who are learning game dev or hobbyists or amateur users, this isn't really going to make much difference to you. Although deep down we all know that our games are going to make us millions because they are the best games ever. I know how that feels and I haven't even made a game, but if I did make a game it would be the best game ever and it would make me millions. But it's certainly a surprising shift from Unity and might perhaps say something about the current state of the company. Now I'm one of those people that really enjoys following business developments, being it global stock markets, entrepreneurial outlooks and all that kind of thing. And there's a few things I'm hearing in the general IT and software sector which I think kind of relate to the situation and show this may be part of a trend. Lots of tech companies have kind of overreached a little and overspent. There's a huge rush to incorporate AI into everything, so lots of companies have spent a huge amount of money on it. I think Unity is no different in this regard, and we've seen announcements to that effect where they're trying to incorporate AI into the engine. So it's possible they've spent an awful lot of money on that, but Unity has not made a profit since it went public in 2020. Now that is according to the generally accepted accounting principles, the GAAP, which is a bit confusing terminology and maybe a little bit of a contestable statement. But I think it's fair to say that things aren't easy for them financially, and it's the same for many tech companies. I also feel like the AI gravy train is slowing down a bit, that companies are starting to think we need to start making a profit and clawing some of those investments back, and how can we do that? And here we are with let's start charging. So Unity going public in 2020 obviously brought a lot of money in as those investors came in, and the share price was quite high for a while, but then there was a financial crisis and Unity never really recovered. So they're in this position where they have to try and think of some way of making the investors happy and start making a profit. The interesting thing here is that there's reports of the people at the top of the company selling their shares beforehand, so it's kind of as if they knew what would happen and the price would be hit. However, it's worth looking at the share price, and it has taken a dip certainly, but it's not as bad as it could have been, so far anyway. I'm certainly feeling very sorry for the many people who work there. There's tweets coming from the employees saying they've fought these changes and apparently many have left because of it. I've heard that most people that work there are really there for the love of game development, and it's really sad to hear that they've felt they've had to move companies because of this development. So that's perhaps a little about what happened and why it happened. So what can you do about it? Well, apparently this is not going to affect 90% of users, so it may not have any effect on you yet, but there are things to consider. This could just be the start. Companies tend to take a hit when they first start turning the tap on, shall we say. They know that people will be upset, so they're prepared for that initial storm. Then they wait for things to calm down, people start accepting the changes, and then they turn the tap up a little bit more. In other words, they may well put the price up more in the future and take a bigger chunk, possibly. It's difficult to say at this time, but that tends to be the format for these type of changes. The problem users face is that it often takes years to develop a game and you have to choose the platform or engine to develop it on. If you budget a certain amount, you have to trust that that platform will not make any changes to their pricing in order to keep to your budget. So there really is an important trust relationship that you need to have with that platform in order to kind of go ahead with them. So if you're worried about this, then there are obviously alternatives. So Unreal Engine is one. We don't really know whether they're going to go down the same road at some point. Financially, they seem to be in a better position than Unity, but you never know what's around the corner. Then of course there's Godot engine, an open source engine where you get to keep all the profits from your game. Lots of people are making a suggestion that they're going to move across to Godot, and it's certainly made a lot of strides recently with its release of Godot 4. They're constantly improving and developing it. It's basically the blender of game engines. I must admit that's where I would focus if I were developing a game right now. It's never as simple as, okay, I'll go across to Godot. There's going to be advantages and disadvantages to each engine. And there's going to be lots of developers out there who've spent a lot of time building up the skills in Unity, and then they've got to change them and figure out Godot. It's not an easy step. Now, incidentally, if you want to learn Godot, then a great place to start is our recently created Godot 4 course, which shows you the fundamentals of Godot and GD scripting by creating 3 fun 2D games in Godot. There's a coupon in the description and the comments. Now, I'd really love to see the rise of Godot engine and everybody jump across that way, because I love the fact that it's open source and I want those type of groups to do well. It gives access to everyone and it's kind of a sharing utopia that I like. But I think these things, as they often seem to, will blow over as the majority of people come to terms with the fact that it doesn't really affect them and the initial shock settles down. That's not to say that there won't be people that are greatly affected and very angry about this, and rightly so. Those small indie teams that have lots of installs at a low price point or 0 price point even, this will hit them really hard. And over the past couple of days, there's been statements from those indie teams and developers about exactly that and how frustrated they are and how they may be moving across to other platforms because of it. There's a possibility that these groups moving to different platforms might actually end up taking other people with them in a kind of influencer kind of way. And it's possible that this will be a big enough number that it will shake up the industry in some way. Now, it may be because of the response of the user that Unity will change their ideas. More likely adapt this new pricing plan in some way to calm the storm. There have been attempts from Unity to clarify these changes, but they haven't gone down too well. And it's very rare that companies come out and say, we made a mistake and we're not going to do that anymore, because it ends up making them look weak to investors and it looks like they don't know what they're doing. But the response has been quite dramatic, so maybe we'll see a change. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see on that one. At this stage though, even if they came out and said we've decided against these changes and we're not going to implement them, I think they will still have to go a fair way to improve the trust relationship. In a sense, they've already shown their hand. We know that they need to make money. They're going to have to claw back for the sake of the investors. So they're going to need to do something. So unless they can think of another way of doing this, it's probably here to stay. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know how you're feeling about the situation and your position and background. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.